Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. With a $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. please call now. Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and you know, probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, yeah, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And you know, it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. Put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, you know, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free Speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's like, it's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you know, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker. With the $60 gift, you can get the tag you're it coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, I mean, depending on where you live, of course, but here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And you know, so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, now these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. You know, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment, specifically the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's unequal protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. You know, we should take a picture of the rack room, you know, and show that, you know, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, you know, in this, you know, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, and, you know, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, you know, we'll go have lunch. And typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things, and not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And we've seen some nice friendships develop out of that, and it's just a great thing. I really really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's what a $1,000 gift to meet and greets. But the bottom line is, every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy, the free press, the fourth estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all.
This
to help
is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. And a lot on our program today. Lisa Graves is going to be with us here in the second hour, talking about how the Senate Judiciary Committee really must investigate Brett Kavanaugh and his lies and his past, frankly, that took him to the Supreme Court. In our third hour, Maya Russum, an attorney and activist with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, is going to be here about a green amendment. And we're going to check in with Daryl Johnson, a security specialist who wrote that 2009 report on right-wing extremism that was issued by the FBI that then they had to pull back in response to this outrage that came from Fox so-called news and right-wing hate radio. Interesting stuff going on. Turns out there's literally not a single person in the federal government who's monitoring right-wing extremism, at least officially. But first, I want to start out today, and we'll get to all these things today and a lot more of the news. Syria, government shutdown, is Trump melting down, and how dangerous does that make him and the administration? All these things as we continue on through the program. But first, I'm really happy to have with us the author, lecturer, activist, former candidate for Congress in California, Marianne Williamson. And she is, her website, marianne4america.com. And you can tweet her at Mar Williamson, M-A-R Williamson. Marianne, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tom. Always great to be with you. I was really fascinated by the Michael Pollan material you were reading.
Yeah.
Brought back my youth.
Yeah, he wrote an incredible book. So I understand that you have launched an exploratory committee to consider running for president of the United States. Tell us about that.
Well, I have a big announcement that I'm going to make in Los Angeles on January 28th. I feel I'm uniquely qualified to make a moral argument for the deeply democratic and human universal values that run counter to an amoral and basically sociopathic economic system which is tyrannizing our society. And I think if all we do is treat that as a political battle, then even if you win a battle here or a battle there, there will always be more battles. I think we need to win the same philosophical and even moral debate that was waged at the founding of our country. And that has to do with advocacy for we the people, for all people created equal, all people with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The government is instituted among men to protect those rights as opposed to the economic rights of a basically few multinational corporate entities whose only sense of economic and ethical responsibility is the fiduciary responsibility to its own stockholders.
So you're taking this much larger than the frame that many of the presumed candidates for president are using, which is I'm not Trump, or we're going to stop Trump, or we're going to stop the Republicans. You're talking about you're talking like Franklin Roosevelt here, like fundamentally changing the frame, the system of governance itself.
The forces that oppose deep democracy at this time don't care if Trump falls down. They have so many people standing behind that. So just Trump, and at this point, who knows if Trump will even be the candidate in 2020. And even whoever it is, whether it's Trump or anyone else, if all we do is defeat electorally that person, then they'll be back in 22. They'll be back in 24. We need to override that through a genuine renaissance of American political and moral consciousness that will create the kind of political gestalt we need Something is going on here that is much deeper than any one candidate or any one set of candidates. What is going on here is a full-scale assault on the democratic values that are at the core of the United States. It's already taken us to a point where we're not really functioning as a democracy. We're functioning as an oligarchy. We have a system of legalized bribery where our government is basically more a servant to an economic system and the trickle-down economics, which supposedly was going to lift all boats, and instead has decimated the American middle class and has turned the vast majority of American people into little more than serfs to this system. This is a form of tyranny here. This is a reversion to an aristocratic archetype. So it's a much bigger debate than just, let's defeat one particular candidate. And I think that the political establishment on both left and right was gobsmacked by Donald Trump because the establishment forces were not addressing the economic despair, the chronic economic despair that was being experienced by millions and millions and millions of Americans. That's how blind that system has become. So I believe that we need a much more expanded sense of possibility, a much more expanded, much deeper sense of argument, what the argument really is. It's democracy versus aristocracy. That's bigger than just winning against one candidate.
On this program, just a few years ago, President Jimmy Carter said that because of Citizens United, we have become an oligarchy with unlimited political bribery. That's pretty close to an exact quote. You're talking like President Carter. That's good.
Well, that's a compliment, and like Thom Hartmann, if I may say so.
Well, yeah, you're echoing many of my themes, absolutely, and I think this is extraordinary. And I'm so pleased to hear a possible candidate for President of the United States actually talking about these large structural issues that have been brought to us, in many cases by the Supreme Court, with the Buckley decision in '76, Citizens United in 2013, and going all the way back to the 1880s, and the issues of corporate power and oligarchy, essentially. How do you communicate that? How do you boil that down to essentially a bumper sticker? How do you communicate that to the kind of people who watch Fox News or listen to right-wing hate radio, who really need things in a simple, straightforward, digestible form that doesn't involve words of more than 2 syllables?
Only a corrupt political system tries to take truth and reduce it to a bumper sticker. We're not going to navigate these times. We're not going to make it through this democratic crisis in our country today without some deep thinking. And the kind of people who come from a right-wing perspective and only watch Fox News, there's a large group of those people that's going to vote for Donald Trump or Donald Trump's successor, no matter what. We didn't lose the 2016 election just because of them. We also lost because of a lot of people who didn't vote, a lot of people who voted third party, et cetera. I personally think that there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who are disturbed and who are at least open to hear a compelling argument for something different. We have one political party that's been, bought into. It's bought into hook, line, and sinker this whole economic theory of, let market forces, really rather than democracy, govern our society. But we have another major party that wrings its hands, like the mother who lets the father beat up on the kids, and she just feels so terrible about it, but she's standing in the hall rather than stopping him. And that other political party has sought to address the pain on the periphery, but it is not addressing the fundamental forces that make all that pain inevitable. That has been the leeching of the soul of the Democratic Party. And only if that soulfulness and real moral conviction is brought back to the Democratic Party will it have the kind of wind that really stands for something more than we got it 2 years, we got it for another 4 years. And that's what I want to help articulate. And I don't think you need to dumb it down for anybody. This idea of dumbing down your message so that you get more people to agree with you, that's not how social change operates. Social change operates not on the horizontal, but on the vertical. Just say what you really think. Say it with conviction. Conviction is a force multiplier. There's a lot of coastal arrogance in this country, like people on the coast who think, well, I believe this, but how are you going to convince people in Nebraska? And I go to Nebraska, and people in Nebraska are smart too. So I don't think we need to dumb anything down. I think we need to up-level the intelligence of our conversation.
That's great. That's brilliant. So, this should have been my first question, just to make it very, very clear. You're talking about if you decide to run for president, you'll be running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And presumably then you're not just talking about, change in America. You're also talking, and I just heard you mention this, but if you'd like to elaborate on it, we've got another minute or so, change in the Democratic Party itself.
Well, the Democratic Party is not a monolith. I mean, whoever wins the presidency, if that person is a Democrat, is the head of the Democratic Party. All I can do is speak my heart as someone who's been a Democrat all my life. And when I ran for Congress, I ran as an independent, which was a principal position, but I see was a very naive position at this point. More importantly, I wouldn't do anything. I would never run as an independent in this presidential race. I wouldn't do anything to risk giving even 10 votes to someone who is not the Democratic candidate in 2020.
Yeah, that makes.
I think that the point is not what happens in the Democratic Party so much as what happens in the human race, what happens to our democracy, what happens to our earth. We need to have a much more profound conversation than just the power plays of one particular party, whoever they are.
And we're facing an existential threat right now with climate change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as the short-term profit maximization of fossil fuel companies and chemical companies are placed before the health of our planet, then climate change is taking us on a dangerous trajectory, which, as you said, is an existential crisis for the human race. As long as short-term profit maximization for huge multinational corporate entities is placed before the health and well-being of our children, we have millions of American children, Tom, who go to school every day in buildings that don't even have working toilets. We have millions of American children who go to school every single day in classrooms where there's not enough minimum school supplies to reasonably expect the teacher to be able to teach that child to read. And if a child has not learned how to read by the age of 8, then the chances of high school graduation are drastically diminished and the chances of incarceration are drastically increased. We have what I see as a humanitarian crisis. It should be seen as a humanitarian crisis among millions of American children who live with chronic trauma. But because they don't work, they have no financial leverage. So it's a massive form of collective child abuse. And as long as short-term profit maximization for Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin are placed before a genuine desire to build peace that will actually sustain us 50 years from now and 100 years from now, giving us $718 billion budget for our defense contractors rather than the kind of money that we really need to build peace, to wage peace, which means expanding economic opportunities for women and expanding educational opportunities for children. We are, as a human species right now, and unfortunately some of our most dangerous trajectories are being actually led by behavior of the United States. We are moving in maladaptive ways. The species is collectively displaying behavior that is maladaptive for our survival. And every species, if it does this, will either mutate, it will either evolve, or it will go extinct. That's how important this is right now. And the United States should be leading the path of further evolution, higher evolution for the human race.
Amen. Well, good luck, Marianne. I wish you the very best. Please keep us up to date on everything, how it's going. MarianneForAmerica.com is the website. Marianne, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Good talking with you. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Stick around. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Sean says, live from Miami Beach. We're actually in Portland, Oregon, but there's something weird about the building. If you see me start to sweat, it's not because I'm debating a conservative. It's because right now in our studio, it's 79 degrees. Whew. Speaking of which, the season, right? And it's cold outside and all that kind of stuff. This is so pathetic. As Walter Einenkel, right, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but he's a staff writer for the Daily Kos. And let me warn you, trigger warning here. Anybody who has lost a loved one to the global war on Christmas, I'm going to talk about that very thing. So if you've lost a loved one to the global war on Christmas, turn away or mute your TV. Here it is. The racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, intellectually dishonest Tucker Carlson last night declared The war on Christmas is going full tilt boogie. My words, not his. Here are his words. He says, of course it's going on, and it's being fought very fiercely here in America. That's the war on Christmas. But not just in America. The war on Christmas is a global struggle. In the Parliament of Scotland, they have a national parliament. Gee, I didn't know that. Really? Scotland has a parliament? Holy cow. Anyhow, in the Parliament of Scotland, they have a national parliament. The coffee shop has stopped selling gingerbread men. Why? Gender specific. They're now called gingerbread people. Oh, the horror. I don't know how we're going to deal with this. He then brings on Tammy Bruce, this right-wing radio personality who, when President Obama and his wife Michelle first took office, said that they were trash. Seriously, Tammy Bruce called Obama and his wife trash as they were taking office. Presumably because they're black. I can't think of any. What? The guy is a law school graduate, a constitutional law professor, a United States senator, a former Illinois state senator. He has an impeccable and spotless record. But, he and his wife are black, so Tammy Bruce thinks they're trash, right? Must be. I don't know why else she would say that. Anyhow, so Tucker Carlson brings her on and says, hey, let's talk about the war on Christmas. Yes, those gingerbread people. Oh, my God. How can we deal with this? Have you lost someone to the global war on Christmas? If you have, I'm so sorry. And I hope I haven't, flipped you out or upset you with this story. Tucker Carlson actually should have started his segment on Fox So-Called News. Murdoch's billionaire network is really what we should call it, because they program things that, are pro-billionaire all the time. It's just that simple. And of course, Murdoch owns it. He's a billionaire. The guy that former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd in the Sydney Morning News called a cancer on Australian democracy. Murdoch owns more than half of the press in Australia. And, apparently thinks, and Kevin Rudd went on to say he thought that Murdoch was a cancer on British and American democracy as well. That network running the war on Christmas, it worked for a while. You got the dupes on Fox News going, oh, the horror, the war on Christmas. They hate Christianity. They don't like Jesus. Who would Jesus deport? What size gun would Jesus carry? Anyhow. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So George Conway, the husband of Kellyanne Conway, retweeted a headline from Slate, the online magazine. At Slate tweeted, Trump's administration is actually very weak. And Conway responded to that saying, exactly right. And then he quoted from the article, the Slate article, quote, the extent to which Republicans are distancing themselves from the White House is a poor sign for a future where even more of the administration is under investigation. The signs of collapse are here. The question is, what pushes everything over the brink? Now, by collapse, they're talking about the collapse of the Trump administration. The progressive and increasing indictments of the individuals in the Trump administration, the possible indictment of the president himself. Things are coming unraveled. This morning, Donald Trump apparently decided that he really didn't want the news media to be talking about this horrible mistake that he made by tweeting yesterday that he's going to pull all our troops out of Syria immediately with no transition, no handing off of power, no protection for the Kurds. France is there. France says we're going to stay. I mean, it's not just the United States in Syria. But he didn't even notify France. He hasn't notified our allies. He didn't notify Congress. He didn't notify the Pentagon. This was just a colossal mistake on the part of the president. And I think, frankly, he did that. He said, oh, we're going to pull out of Syria. We won against ISIS, which we didn't. I mean, it was a lie, right? It's Trump. I personally think that he did this because he wanted to move the conversation away from the national conversation, away from Robert Mueller and the indictments that Mueller is handing down, his own lawyer, his own campaign manager, his former national security advisor, Mike Flynn, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, these guys. I mean, the story the picture that's being painted by Robert Mueller, one brushstroke at a time, one indictment at a time, that picture is very clearly the picture of a criminal enterprise operating inside the Republican Party to promote the candidates with the collaboration of foreign governments, including Russia, Israel, and Saudi Arabia, and possibly others, to basically, hijack the presidency on the behalf of Donald Trump. A successful criminal conspiracy. And as that gets more and more press, Trump is like, let's change the subject. Let's pull out of Syria. And then that blows back in his face. And so he's like, this morning he wakes up and he goes, okay, we got to change the subject again. You know that border wall? I am going to shut down the government to get my damn border wall. And guess what? That's what the media is talking about right now. I mean, Trump, he just, he looks out at the media in America and says, okay, we're just going to change the topic. So what do you think is going to be the thing that pushes Trump over the edge? I mean, a rat is generally not dangerous until it's cornered. I would say that that's broadly, Trump is extremely destructive to the United States. His policy is extremely destructive. But those are, by and large, simply, classic Republican, owned by the fossil fuel billionaires tactics and procedures, processes. But what might Trump do if Robert Mueller releases actual proof that Trump has engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors, impeachable offenses? How is he going to distract us from that? The Justice Department just came out, by the way, and said that Matt Whitaker, the new acting attorney general, who has not been confirmed by the Senate, so he should not be there. This is illegal. This is one of the things they impeached Andrew Johnson for, was putting a guy in as attorney general who had not been confirmed by the Senate. Only other time it's been done in history. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
What the DOJ said is that Matt Whitaker doesn't need to recuse himself from the Mueller investigation. He can start messing with it. Get ready for a real fireworks display. Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, yeah, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. Put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free Speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker With the $60 gift, you can get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, I mean, depending on where you live, of course, but here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And, you know, so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or might take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, now these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, you know, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment, specifically the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's unequal protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. You know, we should take a picture of the rack room, you know, and show that, you know, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, you know, in this, you know, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, and, you know, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, you know, we'll go have lunch. And, you know, typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things. And not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And, you know, we've seen, you know, some nice friendships develop out of that. And it's just a great thing. I really, you know, really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's with a $1,000 gift, the meet and greets. But the bottom line is, every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy, you know, the free press, the fourth estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all, to help our nation.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Daryl Johnson. He's the owner of DT Analytics, a former Department of Homeland Security analyst. He wrote the controversial, or participated in writing the controversial 2009 report, Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic and Political Climate, Fueling Resurgence and Radicalization and Recruitment. He's the author of Right-Wing Resurgence, How a Domestic Terrorist Threat is Being Ignored. His website, dtanalytics.org. You can tweet him at dtanalytics Witter, W-I-T-T-E-R. Daryl, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for joining us. So why isn't Donald Trump's, first of all, is it true that Donald Trump's Homeland Security Department is not monitoring right-wing terrorists.
That is true. When I left back in 2010, they had one lone analyst looking at domestic right-wing extremism, and now they have none.
Why would that be?
Well, as you saw in the controversial report I wrote back in 2009, this is a political minefield, this topic. There's a lot of people that align themselves that are sympathetic to some of the white nationalist, anti-government groups. And so I just think Homeland Security takes a risk-averse approach. They don't want any more political firestorm directed their way.
So your report back in 2009, is that am I misremembering? I thought the FBI had issued a report on right-wing extremism that the Obama administration, that followed by almost a year, a report on radicalized Muslim terrorism. And that report, when it came out in the early months of the Obama presidency, he basically had to walk it back and stuff it because of the explosion on Fox right-wing, Fox so-called news and right-wing hate radio. Are those the same reports, or are these separate reports, or enlighten me, please?
That's my report. It was produced under Homeland Security. Janet Napolitano was the secretary at the time, so the FBI didn't have any role in that report. It's just purely a Homeland Security report.
I see. Okay, I was conflating Homeland Security and FBI in my head. So essentially, what is the situation right now, Daryl, with regard to right-wing extremism in the United States? How dangerous is this, or are we overly concerned about just a small group of fundamentalists who have largely always been with us, like the old John Birch Society back in the 50s?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is from 2008 until 2016, we had a steady increase in these groups and their activities, and even the violent attacks. And so typically during Republican administrations, we see the far right dial back on its activities and the membership goes down because they don't have these fears of gun confiscations or gun laws being passed or rights being extended to minority groups like you may have under Democratic administration. So typically we see a dial back, but under the Trump administration, we've actually seen these groups continue to operate at a heightened level and continue to conduct violent attacks. And so it kind of goes against the trends that we've seen over the past 5 decades.
I read a report or an article a couple of days ago that said that since 2008, the majority of terrorist attacks inside the United States, the absolute majority, every year since 2008, the absolute majority of terrorist attacks inside the United States have been conducted by white nationalists or white right-wing extremists. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And America's, I guess, image when they talk terrorism, they always think it's someone with dark skin that has a Arab-sounding name that subscribes to, radical interpretations of Islam. They don't realize we've got white terrorists here in America that are born and bred within.
Yeah. So, wow. What do we do, Daryl? We're talking to Daryl Johnson, the owner of DT Analytics, former Department of Homeland Security analyst, the guy who wrote that 2009 report on right-wing extremism. What do we do?
So at a federal level, there needs to be more resources devoted to analyzing and combating the threat. They also need to conduct more training of state and local law enforcement so they can become more aware of these groups and their violent beliefs. On a local level, or at a community or individual level, we need to combat this hatred with love. We need to care for our fellow man. If we have a family member that's subscribing to these extremist beliefs, we need to challenge it in a loving way or dismiss it in a kind of a humorous way. So rather than letting this hatred fester to the point where someone gets frustrated enough that they go out and hurt somebody, we need to, embrace these people and talk them away from these extremist beliefs and try to include them in the mainstream society.
That's a remarkable statement to hear from a former DHS, Department of Homeland Security analyst, that we need to respond to hate with love. It is so spot on. And rather than getting all jacked up and responding to hate with hate. Daryl Johnson, you're doing God's work, sir. Thank you so much for dropping by today and sharing your observations with us.
I really appreciate it, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you too, Daryl. Thanks so much for being with us. It's great talking with you. remarkable guy doing some just extraordinary work out there, and somebody that we all need to be listening to. Matt in Napa, California. Hey, Matt, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, just heard your comments about the pullout in Syria. Kind of surprised, but I haven't listened to you for quite a while, so maybe you've changed a bit. For one, it seems like the Democrats in general are becoming more the war party, and liberals are becoming more and more comfortable with confronting Russia. I find that a worrisome trend, and when we can't even support Trump when he does pull out of what basically, in my mind, is an imperial project to begin with, that's even more disappointing. I mean, I'm not quite sure, whether you felt we should be there to begin with, or whether once we get there, that you broke it, you own it.
Well, let me lay it out for you, Matt. And thank you for calling and giving me the opportunity. And once I've laid it out, we can discuss it if you'd like. First of all, just broadly speaking, we never should have invaded Afghanistan in response to 9/11. We should have taken Mullah Omar's offer to arrest bin Laden and his 5,000 merry men and send them off to a third country for prosecution. We should have engaged Interpol and the EU and NATO and everybody else in a worldwide manhunt and dealt with it as a crime, which is what it was. It was not an act of a state. Afghanistan had nothing to do with attacking the United States. It was crazy for us to attack that country. And then it was even crazier for us to attack Iraq. Our taking out Gaddafi in Libya has led to, Libya was the cork in the bottle of northern Africa. It's right across the straits there from Italy and Greece. And so suddenly, once Gaddafi was gone, you had all these refugees flowing into Europe, which triggered the right-wing extremism in Europe now, which led to the election of Orban in Hungary and the election of a right-wing government in Poland, and on and on and on. I mean, all these are the consequences of George W. Bush's misadventures that we now know were done just to gain and keep political power, to get himself reelected in 2004. So broadly speaking, I'm opposed to all of that. And I was also opposed to our involving ourselves in Syria. I get it that Russia has actually a legitimate security interest in Syria. They have a deep water port there. It's their only Mediterranean port. And, if Russia was to start, invading Qatar, where we have a deep water port, and which is no democratic government, by the way, we would be flipped out about it. So, understanding broadly speaking, the geopolitics of that region, that's where I'm at. That said, the Kurds have for millennia, I mean, literally for hundreds to thousands of years, been a separate, they would call themselves a separate racial group. I don't think that I would use that phrase, but, a separate tribe, shall we say. They have their own language. They have their own version of Islam. And they had their own country before the Ottoman Empire, and then largely their own country before World War I. After World War I, we carved up Kurdistan into three parts. We put part of it in northern Syria, we put part of it in northwestern Iraq, and we put part of it in southern Turkey. So that's the old Kurdistan. So we have reached out to the Kurds on a couple occasions since Bush's first invasion of Afghanistan, and it seems every time we ultimately betray them. But the Peshmerga, the Kurdish fighting force that's hundreds of years old, is one of they're some of the best fighters in the world. So we reached out to the Kurds in northern Syria and said, A, we'll protect you from Assad, B, we'll protect you from Turkey. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, has the Kurds in the south of Turkey, and he has been trying to slaughter them. He wants to commit genocide for years. He hates these people. And the only thing that's preventing him is that he wants to stay in the European Union and he wants to stay part of NATO, so he can't do that. So now Erdogan has come out and said that he wants to invade northern Syria and commit genocide there. He hasn't said he wants to commit genocide, but obviously he wants to invade northern Syria to take out the Kurds. He wants to slaughter the Kurds in northern Syria. And so we went into northern Syria and we said to the Kurds, okay, ISIS has seized some land in this area. You fight ISIS. We'll provide you with air support. We only have 2,000 troops there. We'll provide you with air support and tactical support and intelligence and technology, and you do the fighting. And they did. And they lost thousands of soldiers. But they effectively cleared the area of ISIS. And now Erdogan wants to take them out. Donald Trump, meanwhile, is desperate to get Erdogan to shut up about Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia's complicity in the murder and torture, murder, and dismemberment of Jamal Khashoggi. So Trump, so Erdogan says, okay, I'll shut up about this and let you continue doing business and let Kushner's continue getting money from the Saudis and their buddies, the Emiratis. I'll only do that if you'll deport that mullah who is in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, who he thinks was responsible for the coup against him. Trump tried to do that. We know now Trump tried to do that. And that was Michael Flynn's whole thing, his first week as a national security advisor, and it blew up because it got publicity. So Erdogan comes back and has a conversation with Trump literally last week and says, and we don't know exactly what he said, but this is my conclusion, says, okay, I can't get my mullah, but I'll tell you what, let me kill the Kurds in northern Syria. So then Trump goes and says, okay, Kurds, you're going to die. See you later. I'm all in favor of our pulling out of northern Syria. But you've got French troops there, you've got British troops there, you've got other NATO coalition troops who are in that region. We are abandoning them. We're abandoning the Kurds. We should at the very least have said to Turkey, if you try to invade Syria, we will be back. But we didn't say that. Essentially what Trump said was, okay, fine, Erdogan, have your slaughter. I think that's wrong. What do you think, Matt?
Well, certainly I'm not going to disagree about the Kurdish situation in particular and the way you describe it. But, I think for the safety of the world, it's a better move overall because, and I'm not even sure Trump is in control of all that goes on there.
No, his military is opposed to this. His national security apparatus is opposed to this. The State Department's opposed to it. Everybody's in favor of pulling us out of everywhere we possibly can, me included. But you have to, and I realize that this is the exact same excuse that's used to perpetuate and lengthen and extend, and has been for 16, 17 years, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And we should have gotten out a hell of a long time before that. And yeah, there's going to be a mess there. But at the very least, we should have threatened Turkey. I mean, this to me is a transparent transaction. Donald Trump wants to build hotels in Turkey. He and Jared Kushner desperately need $1 billion for Kushner's building, and they've been trying to get it from the Emiratis and the Saudis. And it looks to me like this is a simple payoff to Erdogan and to Saudi Arabia to shut up Erdogan in order to keep the money flowing to the Kushner family. And that's what offends me so much. Matt, thanks a lot for the call. It's good talking to you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's 47 and a half minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Stephen in Rochester, New York. Stephen, it says here you want to disagree with me. You just heard my riff on Syria. Why do you think that we should immediately pull out and just abandon the Kurds?
Well, first of all, I think that he knows a hell of a lot more about what's
I'm listening.
I don't hear you.
I'm here. I'm listening. By he, you mean Donald Trump?
Yeah.
You think Trump is smarter than General Mattis?
What's going on there than anybody else?
You think that Donald Trump knows more about what's going on in Syria than his cabinet level Secretary of Defense or the Joint Chiefs, who are both opposed to this move?
They have got some information that you don't have.
Which might be why they're opposed to pulling out.
Which might not be what you're saying. They feel that they ought to pull out.
No, they don't.
No.
Mattis is opposed to pulling out. The State Department is opposed to pulling out. The Joint Chiefs are opposed to pulling out. Congress is opposed to pulling out. All these people who are getting all these security briefings, they're all opposed to pulling out. Marco Rubio, Bob Corker, Marco Rubio, reliable, Koch ally.
I don't know a thing.
So Donald Trump is the only guy who knows what's really going on in Syria, in your opinion, Stephen?
He is the only one.
Because he's such a stable genius.
He's the one that has got the information from the Joint Chief of Staff.
Well, then why are the Joint Chiefs saying don't pull out?
On there that you don't know.
Stephen, hang on just a second. Do you understand, do you realize that the Joint Chiefs, that the Secretary of Defense, that the National Security Advisor are all in favor of our staying there. The only person in the national security apparatus who says we should pull out is Trump. So you're saying that he's the only one who knows something, that all these guys who are actually in contact with the troops on the ground, who are actually monitoring the situation, this is what they do 24/7, they do it for a living, that they're all wrong and Trump is right?
Yeah. Now, would you like me to rebuff the argument?
If you can.
Would you like me to
What does Trump know that the rest of us don't know?
The argument.
What does Trump know that Mattis doesn't know? His Secretary of Defense.
He knows much more than any of them. Now,
he knows that Erdogan will let him build a hotel in Ankara.
You understand how it works in Washington. He gets information from people around him. And
you mean like Sean Hannity? He calls every night. He doesn't take security briefings anymore, Stephen. He has stopped. He doesn't read the national security briefings.
You are full of baloney on that.
Donald Trump himself has said he doesn't need to read the security briefings. He knows this stuff better than his intelligence agencies.
Oh, that's not true at all.
Trump did say that, Stephen.
That's you see.
Look it up.
You just refuse to allow him. No, I have to laugh at your response.
Okay. Well, good luck. I'm okay. Stephen, thank you. I guess we disagree. We'll be back. It's 51 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. The Dow is down 351 points. Now, the Dow is not the economy, but don't say I didn't warn you. Whew, amazing. Sunday in Newcastle, Wyoming. Hey, Sunday, what's on your mind?
Well, what you just said about Turkey wanting to attack the Kurds, I totally agree with that. But on another side of the issue, Israel has made a statement that they intend to attack Lebanon over the Hezbollah tunnel situation. Mm-hmm. If they coincide, an attack with Turkey and with Israel at the same time, that would put our people in the line of fire, so that's why they're being pulled out. And this would also allow the Hezbollah and the Kurds from working together, because the whole Middle East would come to defend Lebanon.
Now, let me just clarify something, Sunday. I'm sorry, I don't have a map of the Middle East in front of me. My recollection is that Syria and Lebanon share a border, and that Syria and Israel and Lebanon share a border. Am I remembering that right?
Right.
Okay.
All the fighters in the Middle East that are attached with Hezbollah, Syria, and Iran would come to defend an attack on Lebanon.
Right, I get that, and I think that could be the spark that lights the fuse for World War III. I don't disagree with that at all. But my geographic recollection is that the Lebanese and Israeli borders, the Israeli border is the Golan Heights, the very southern tip of Syria. That's all happening in the south of Syria.
Right.
The Kurds are in the extreme north of Syria, up near the Turkish border.
But attacking from both sides in conjunction, it would split the forces. Do they fight Israel or do they fight Turkey? And so Hezbollah...
They being Syria?
No, Hezbollah.
Okay.
And Syria.
Right.
And then that would involve, the whole Middle East, because there are Shias in every country of the Middle East.
Sure.
And so they are all going to come to defend against an Israeli attack on Lebanon, and that would leave the Kurds open for Turkey to attack.
Right.
And
Iraq is a majority Shia and now has a Shia government. So Iraq has essentially aligned itself with Iran, something that Trump and the Bushies don't want you to know.
Right.
So basically, we have set up a war between the Shia and the Sunni. And if the Sunni win, then ISIS is ultimately going to win. ISIS and Saudi Arabia, I mean, ISIS grew out of Saudi Arabia's Wahhabist movement. So wow, that's an interesting analysis. So given that, and I don't think that you're wrong. I think that
on the 13th, Michael Malouf reported that Israel made the statement that they are going to attack Lebanon. Turkey has made the statement they are going to attack the Kurds.
Right.
So if they coordinate those attacks, look out.
Wow. Wow. And they're both relatively right-wing governments.
Yes, and I think that's why Trump is pulling the people out of there
so
right now. So
he's pulling out just to get out of the way.
Caught in the middle.
Because he knows that a war is coming?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, that makes a certain amount of sense. So understanding that, you know, the geostrategic perspective here that you're bringing, Sunday, to this, which is fascinating, and thank you for it. What would you suggest that we should be doing?
I would suggest that we just pull our people out of all of those countries and let them tend to their own business.
Yeah, yeah. There's, you know, there is an impulse to do that.
I don't think it'll ever happen, though.
You don't think that our troops in northern Syria might be the one thing that's preventing Turkey from triggering this war?
No, I do not.
So Turkey would invade northern Syria even if American forces were in the middle, in the way?
Yep, I think so.
Wow.
Because you know, if you look at what's happening with Israel, Netanyahu has some legal issues, and so he has to create a war to boost his popularity, and it echoes the same thing that is happening with Ukraine provoking Russia to keep Poroshenko in power.
Right. And so, Trump now looking at the end of his own presidency.
That's right. And so with all these people playing their little ego games, they're going to sacrifice everything to have their power maintained.
And this could be a World War I scenario where all these interlocking treaties bring everybody into the fight. Sunday, thank you. You're one of the most insightful foreign policy analysts who has called in a long time. I appreciate it. Do you have a background in this, Sunday, or are you just?
No, I'm just an information junkie, and I'm watching a lot of news from a lot of sources.
I guess so. Sunday, thank you very much for the call. It's great to hear from you, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be back. Stick around. Lisa Graves is going to be with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. With a $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now. Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and you know, probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, yeah, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And you know, it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. Put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, you know, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free Speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's like, it's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you know, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker. With the $60 gift, you can get the tag you're it coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, I mean, depending on where you live, of course, but here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And you know, so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or might take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, now these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. You know, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment specifically, the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's unequal protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. You know, we should take a picture of the rack room, you know, and show that, you know, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, you know, in this, you know, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, and, you know, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, you know, we'll go have lunch. And, you know, typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things. And And not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And, we've seen, some nice friendships develop out of that. And it's just a great thing. I really, really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's what a $1,000 gift to meet and greets. But the bottom line is every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy. The free press, the Fourth Estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all, to help our nation.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Healing power.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us, and by the way, we've been talking about Syria. We had Marianne Williamson on, who has launched an exploratory committee, MarianneForAmerica.com. Daryl Johnson, the guy who wrote the 2009 report that the Obama administration had to bury on right-wing extremism, was here with us in the last hour telling us that literally when Trump came into office, there was one guy at the Department of Homeland Security who was overseeing the investigations into right-wing terrorist extremism within the United States. Since 2008, right-wing terrorists have accounted for more murders, more deaths in the United States than any other terrorist group. And the Trump administration has let that guy go. And there's literally no one right now in the Department of Homeland Security, according to Daryl Johnson, the former DHS analyst who wrote that 2009 report. There's literally no one watching that. So pretty amazing stuff. And we'll continue those conversations and the conversation about what's going on in Syria. But right now, Lisa Graves is with us. She's the co-director of Documented Investigations. She's the former chief counsel for nominations for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Documented.net is her website. You can tweet her at the Lisa Graves. And Lisa, welcome back to the program.
Tom, it's so nice to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
It is always great having you with us, Lisa. You are so on top of the stuff that you're looking into. You're one of the smartest people I know, and you're suggesting that Congress must investigate Brett Kavanaugh's lies before the Senate. I'm assuming you're talking not specifically about his lies before the Senate in the previous months, but the ones that go back to, what, 2004, 2006? Am I remembering right?
Yes, that's right, and thank you for that lovely compliment. I really appreciate it. But
it's true.
What I'm calling for is for Congress to investigate his lies going back to 2004, 2006, and his lies this past September. And I think Congress has to investigate it, especially now that the courts have refused to hold him to account for his conduct.
Well, and let's set that up. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, there were 83 or 84, as I recall, ethics complaints that have been filed with the D.C. Circuit Court, one step below the Supreme Court, the court on which Brett Kavanaugh used to sit, alleging ethics violations specifically related to this hearing that he had, from disrespecting Congress to outright lies to sexual assault and other things. And the court yesterday said, sorry, we can no longer investigate Brett Kavanaugh. We can't hold him to account because now he's our boss, essentially. He's now in the Supreme Court, and we can't. That's above our pay grade. Am I characterizing that accurately?
That's a pretty good description of it. They punted. They refused to rule on the merits of this, even though the Code of Conduct for United States judges applies to circuit court judges, which is what Brett Kavanaugh was until he was confirmed, and all of the conduct except for the sexual assault, but the lying about that were part of those hearings. And so when he engaged in misconduct, according to many of these complaints, and in my view, he was a sitting circuit court judge, and I think that the courts should have applied the code to him at that time. But the idea that because he's on the Supreme Court, therefore he's above the law, really is evading the responsibility to enforce this code. This code includes key, normal, ordinary standards for judges, which include if reasonable minds would conclude that a judge's honesty, integrity, impartiality, or temperament or fitness to serve are impaired, that's clearly an issue in the conduct displayed by Brett Kavanaugh in the hearings, his testimony under oath, and more. And I think that because the courts have not applied this code to him because he's on the Supreme Court, Congress really has a moral duty to look into this.
Yeah, this is pretty remarkable. So how would Congress go about doing this? How should this be done, in your opinion, Lisa Graves?
Well, I think the House of Representatives, the new House, has ample authority to examine these matters, even though the confirmation process in the Constitution is set for the Senate. In the House has the ability to examine matters that pertain to the judiciary, including the U.S. Supreme Court. It has always had that power. It also has, inherent investigative powers and impeachment powers. And so I think that the House Judiciary Committee should look into this, should gather evidence that was not provided to the Senate Judiciary Committee, that was withheld from that committee, and also gather evidence that the FBI refused to examine about Brett Kavanaugh's lies under oath. Lying to Congress is a serious matter. It should be a serious matter. Lying under oath is certainly a serious matter for a lawyer, certainly for a judge. And I think there's ample evidence that Brett Kavanaugh lied, and he's unsuited, unfit for the position he holds on the U.S. Supreme Court. His presence there really calls into question the legitimacy of any decision he participates in as a Supreme Court justice.
You worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we're talking here about the House Judiciary Committee because the Senate Judiciary Committee is under the control of Republicans, so presumably they won't do anything. But the House Judiciary Committee will be headed up by a Republican, or by a Democrat, excuse me, and hopefully you can tell me, remind me who that person is. Have you heard anything from anybody on the House Judiciary Committee that would suggest that they might be willing to undertake this investigation?
Well, the incoming chairman of the House Judiciary Committee is Congressman Jerry Nadler. He
of New York.
Of New York. He's a strong congressperson. He's dealt with a lot of different types of investigations during his career in Congress. And I would hope that he would examine these matters. I know that Congress has a number of matters to take up pertaining to this administration. I'm not suggesting that this be the very first matter on that docket. I think Congress can do more than one thing at a time, and it can begin the process of examining this. This is a very serious issue that goes to the heart of the integrity of the judiciary, and that is, in fact, the Committee on the Judiciary. On the Senate side, unfortunately, Senator Grassley poorly led that committee as the chairman these past few years, and now it appears that Lindsey Graham will be the incoming chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he obviously, as the public saw, is sort of unhinged in many ways and is really just a lapdog to President Trump. There's no way he would do the right thing and investigate the lies. In fact, he did everything he could to sort of obscure those lies through his own histrionics at that hearing, at which Dr. Christine Blasey Ford gave compelling evidence, eyewitness testimony, and Brett Kavanaugh came in his own hysterical, very partisan, extremely poor temperament way after he'd given a very calm interview with Fox News about those very same matters. And so, the Republicans really allowed there to be a show, a real sort of theatrical production to try to get Brett Kavanaugh through, and they succeeded to get him on the court. But that doesn't mean he deserves to be there. In fact, I think he most certainly does not, and Congress should definitely investigate it.
A lot of our listeners and viewers like to call members of Congress and suggest to them that they do certain things. The number for the Congressional Switchboard is 202-225-3121. 202-225-3121 or 224-3121. They both go to the Congressional Switchboard. Is there or are there other members of the House Judiciary Committee who you think might be receptive to a message from their constituents or even from people across the country, since the Judiciary Committee arguably represents all of us, in basically citizen lobbying of them to investigate Brett Kavanaugh?
Well, I think, and I've thought this for a long time, that it's important for members both parties to be hearing from constituents, even if you feel like they're not listening to you or that they're acting in ways that they don't represent you. So I would say to call every single member on that committee, Republican or Democratic, and say, our courts should be above this sort of partisanship, but also they should be above having people put into high positions, lifetime positions, who have lied under oath. And I think there's ample evidence for that. And so I would say I wouldn't single out a single member. Call them all, because they all need to hear this is not okay.
Lisa, I don't have a handy list of the members of the House Judiciary Committee in front of me. If you do, could you read it on the air right now real quickly, or do you not also?
I'm looking it up right now, Tom. I hadn't planned on doing that, but I'm happy to. I'm happy to.
That's quite all right. I'll track it down as we go through the hour, and in fact, I'll do it during the break at the bottom of the hour, and I'll read it on the air. Lisa Graves, the co-director of Documented Investigations. Documented.net is the website. You can tweet her at the Lisa Graves, former chief counsel for nominations for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Lisa, thanks so much for dropping by today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Keep up the great work. You are such a champion for democracy in the United States. Lisa Graves.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with more of the news of the day. How is the Trump administration melting down? What's going on in Syria? Is Trump going to shut down the government? All that stuff after this break. And welcome back. Let's see here. Donald in Greensboro, North Carolina. Hey, Donald. It says here you disagree with me on Syria. What's up?
How you doing? I've tried to reach you several times, and this is the first time I've gotten through.
Good. I'm glad you got through.
I'll make a couple of comments, and then I'll just get off the line and listen to your responses. You had a lady on, I believe her name was Sonia, a couple of calls ago, talking about Maluka made some statements. And also, I can't, I'm 71 years old. I don't remember the name of the spokesperson for the Middle East. But the person said, can you hear me?
Just fine, Donald.
Okay. The person said that the Middle East wants peace, but they think the right brokers to bring peace to the Middle East would be Turkey, Russia, and Iran, and not the United States. That the United States getting out of Syria would be the right thing to do. And secondly, we have over 800 military bases throughout the world, and we can't bring democracy through the barrel of a gun. Our military budget, over $700 billion, is to Russia's $46 billion. We spend 16 times as much money, and we aren't going to get peace in the world through our military. And if we use less money on the military, we could probably give college students free tuition. We probably can give Medicare for all. We probably will have less suicides and opioid deaths. We need world peace, and it can't come through staying in Syria, Afghanistan, and all these 800 military bases.
Yeah.
I'm off the phone and listen to you.
No, Donald, well, you stick around for a second. I agree with you on virtually all your points. And I think we should get out of Syria, too. I just don't think that we should do it with 24 hours notice. I think, we should be engaging our allies.
800 military bases is the wrong attitude for America to have.
I agree.
We need military.
I would love to see the United States shut down, 3/4 of our bases around the world. The whole point of empire has been historically, since really the 1910s, the 1920s, well, since World War I anyway, the whole point of empire across the world has been to protect the shipping lanes for oil, mostly from Saudi Arabia, but all over the world, and to protect commerce. And, that's no reason to be an empire. And our empire is frankly crumbling. I agree with that. But what are you going to do? Or should we just say, okay, there's a couple 100,000 Kurds in northern Syria. Screw them. Let them die.
Well, the death that has taken place from Iraq to Afghanistan to Vietnam, World War I, World War II, all those deaths are almost in vain. And we can't look back. We got to look forward. We can't constantly cling to the fact that we're going to deliver democracy through the barrel of a gun. We got to look forward.
I agree with that,
The
Don.
whole world will rejoice.
I absolutely agree with that. But what are we going to do about that? My suggestion was very simple, that Donald Trump should have said to Turkey, if you go in and slaughter the Kurds, there will be consequences. He's not saying that. I think he's in favor of Turkey slaughtering the Kurds because that'll shut Erdogan up about Saudi Arabia. And that's what I object to.
We got to move past consequences and threats. We got to go forward for peace on earth.
Okay. Spot on. Donald, thank you very much for the call. We'll be right back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, Talk Media for the sane among us. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. With a $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with the logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Supreme Court. So check it out. The members of the House Judiciary Committee on the Republican side, I'm just going to go through this list real quick, so listen up. If you recognize any of these names, if they represent you, in fact, I'm just going to read their last, well, I'll read their names. If they represent you, the number for Congress, write it down, 202-225-3121. Bob Goodlatte, Jim Sensenbrenner, Lamar Smith, Steve Chabot, Darrell Issa, Steve King, Louis Gohmert, Jim Jordan, Ted Poe, Tom Marino, Trey Gowdy, Raul Labrador, Doug Collins, Ron DeSantis, Ken Buck, John Ratcliffe, Martha Roby, Matt Getz, Mike Johnson, Andy Biggs, John Rutherford, Karen Handel, and Keith Rothfuss. Those are the Republicans. Here are the Democrats. Jerry Nadler, he's going to be the incoming chair in January. Zoe Lufgren, Sheila Jackson Lee, Steve Cohen, Hank Johnson, Ted Deutsch, Luis Gutierrez, Karen Bass, Cedric Richmond, Hakeem Jeffries, David Sicilian, Eric Swalwell, Ted Lieu, Jamie Raskin, Pramila Jayapal, Brad Schneider, and Val Demings. So if any of those people represent you, you may want to get in touch with them. So Jesse in Miami, Florida. Hey, Jesse, what's on your mind today?
Hey, hi, Tom.
Hey, Jesse.
Happy holidays to everybody. Basic question. You asked for a bumper sticker when talking to, thank God for the lady,
Marianne Williamson, yeah.
Yeah. A bumper sticker for people who just can't get it. I would say the bumper sticker should say, does life matters? I mean, with the lady, the young girl that, God bless her, died from thirst in our custody, and how people outpouring of sympathy for her symbolize the true America. I think people who've been fed Kool-Aid for, millennials about, people don't care, not having empathy. I mean, it's just basic. If you don't care about life, what do you care about? That's it.
Yeah. If the anti-abortion people hadn't hijacked the word life, I would completely agree with you. And broadly, I do. And Jesse, there's a new one. Adolfo Flores, writing for BuzzFeed News, The headline, 5-month-old girl has been hospitalized with pneumonia after being detained by the Border Patrol. Ms. Flores writes, a 5-month-old girl who traveled with a migrant caravan has been hospitalized after spending 5 days inside freezing cells operated by the border authorities in California. 23-year-old mother said she and her daughter were placed in holding cells that the migrants call hieleras, or ice boxes. These have been criticized by human rights advocates. The girl had been taking the antibiotic amoxicillin, but her mother said she wasn't allowed to keep the medication in detention. She described the temperatures inside the cells as, quote, freezing. She told the agents her daughter was sick when they took her. They said that, oh, that's normal, everyone's sick, and she was not allowed to get new medication or see a doctor. Her breathing was getting worse, she told BuzzFeed News. The agents told me I was not in a position to be asking for anything, and that they didn't tell me to come to the United States. This follows in the heels of the death of Jacqueline Cal, the 7-year-old Guatemalan girl. So, Jesse, there's another one. This little girl's in the hospital now with pneumonia. This is just wrong.
You know, God bless America, and the idea that we don't care about life, that's one of the biggest lies in history.
Yeah. Well, America, this is the ugly face of the Fox News part of America and the Donald Trump part of America. Jesse, thank you for the call. And we really, really need to get beyond that. John in Jeffersonville, Ohio. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I'd just like to offer a little bit of hope, because I was thinking the other day, if someone asked you to build a building with imperfect material, you'd kind of scratch your head. And our founders of this country had to put together a government with imperfect people, because we are not perfect people. There's, greed, and there's all kinds of dishonesty and all these things. And even with the stress test of this administration, it looks like our democratic institutions are holding. Some have bent, some have broken, but overall, it seems like they're holding. And also, they gave us an instrument to use to take back that power and reverse the damage. And other governments in history did not have that. They had to do it through blood and war and horrific things.
So we have the instrument of impeachment or of elections, or both.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just happy about that.
Yeah, me too, John. And I actually am hopeful about the future, as much as I am just, screwed up in agony over the present. And, here we got George Conway saying that this administration is collapsing. Rats are dangerous when you corner them. What's Trump going to do next? John, thank you for the call.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Dr. Paul Ryan, the Fiscal Scientist, by Tom the Dancing Bug. You got to check this cartoon out. I'll tell you about it after the break, and we'll pick up your calls. Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday, we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and, probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear Windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker. With a $60 gift, you can get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, depending on where you live, of course. But here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or might take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift. Now, these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment specifically, the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's Unequal Protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. We should take a picture of the rack room, and show that, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, in this, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, we'll go have lunch. And, typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things. And not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And, we've seen, some nice friendships develop out of that. And it's just a great thing. I really, really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's with a $1,000 gift, the meet and greets. But the bottom line is, every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy, the free press, the Fourth Estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all, to help our nation.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Mike in Iona, Michigan. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir, Tom. This is Mike from beautiful Ionia. And like your previous caller, 71-year-old gentleman, I lived through and witnessed, the Gulf of Tonkin and the resultant horror show that resulted. And then just miraculously, we got to view the WMD story where every general, every Joint Chiefs of Staff, Hillary Clinton, Colin Powell, Dick, God bless him, Cheney, the group of them, all told us the same thing. Anyway, when I hear them tell me something, I immediately think the opposite. And I'm not saying the opposite is right, but I can't buy what they tell me. Any withdrawal of troops from the Arab nations or Muslim nations is a godsend. Merry Christmas.
Well, I'd say a withdrawal of troops from pretty much anywhere is probably a good thing, but
and especially in the Middle East.
I'm just terribly offended by my belief that Donald Trump is pulling these troops out of Syria and turning the Kurds over to Erdogan in Turkey purely for economic reasons. He's doing it purely because he wants to, he wants the Saudis and the Emiratis to loan his grandson $1 billion, or his stepson rather, $1 billion. It sure looks like that to me, and I think that's a crime, frankly.
Can I just say one thing of that being one of your responses to the other guy is going about the Kurds, and we're going to see 200,000 Kurds killed. And the comment was, which I think is one of the most dangerous comments made by any politician or talking head, is what are we going to do about it? Because sometimes the best thing to do about it is nothing at all. It may be, as a matter of fact, it's oftentimes and has been to date totally counterproductive. We've created more terrorists. And I mean, if they slaughtered your family, how would you feel about it?
No, you're absolutely right. And when we walked away from, and when Jerry Ford walked away from Vietnam, there was a slaughter in Vietnam. But
so what are you going to do about it?
I know exactly. But see, it was our responsibility. And yes, okay. Maybe I'm recalibrating my thinking.
I'm way left beyond where you've ever dreamt of being. Okay, and I'm here to tell you that's a nightmare. That's disgusting. And God forgive you and all the other warmongers. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Mark in San Francisco. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind?
Well, Tom, happy holidays to you.
Thanks, back at you.
And I want to bring up the fact that I think that our foreign policy is based on what the Trump family can profit from, unfortunately.
Well, that was my whole point. And like I said, if we pull out of Syria, that's fine with me. In fact, I'm all in favor of it. I just think it should be done in a way that makes it clear to Turkey that if they invade northern Syria and take out the Kurds, there will be consequences. They don't have to be military consequences, but there will be very severe consequences. That we could, I believe, help get Turkey, for example, kicked out of the European Union, out of NATO. But anyhow, back to you, Mark.
Well, it's scary to think that that's how our foreign policy is being played out by the Trump administration, is whatever they can profit from. It doesn't matter what happens to this country or what's best for this country. And what makes it worse is the Republican Party is complicit in it, and they're going along with it because he'll sign anything that their contributors want.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I'll say it again, I am convinced that the reason Trump tweeted this yesterday was A, to distract us from what's going on with the Mueller investigations and his treasons, and B, to get the Turkish government and Erdogan specifically to stop talking about Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia, so that the Trump family can start, the Trump crime family can start getting some money out of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. I may be wrong on that, but I believe that that's the motivation. Mark, thanks for listening to 9:10 a.m. in San Francisco. David in Indian Trail, North Carolina. Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, I was just calling to see or ask, because I have not heard this. What is the actual opposition to building a border wall in between Mexico and the U.S.?
It's the least efficient and most stupid way to have border security. We have technology now that allows us to first of all, you could put a fence up. Walls require enormous maintenance. They're very expensive. And, the only people who win with walls, broadly speaking, are concrete companies and construction people like Trump. But there are a large chunk of A and B, large portions of that border are places that people can't even get through. I mean, you got cliffs and bluffs and mountains and whatnot. But nobody is suggesting that we shouldn't have a border with Mexico. Nobody is suggesting that we should have an open border. This is a lie that Donald Trump has told on Twitter. It's a lie that Fox News and right-wing hate radio repeats. The Democrats want open borders. Nobody wants open borders. You can't have a country with open borders, as the Europeans, by the way, are discovering. I always thought the European Union was a huge mistake, and we're seeing that played out right now. It's blowing up in their faces. That said, there are really appropriate ways to deal with this. We had a wide open border with Mexico for the first 200 and some odd years of our existence as a country. And the reason why, starting in the 1920s, the reason why people came, and again, if you want to dig into this, David, just Google Bracero, B-R-A-C-E-R-O. Google the old Bracero program that Dwight Eisenhower put into place in the 1950s. It was basically, we'll give you a seasonal pass to come into the United States. Every year throughout the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s, right up until 1986, you had about 1 million people who came north in time for the picking season, particularly up the West Coast, and about 1 million people who went south after the picking season was over. Because no other industry would hire people, because up until 1986, if wealthy white employers hired people who did not have U.S. citizenship or a visa to work here, they went to jail. Reagan stopped that policy in 1986 as part of his, the law still says that if you hire somebody who's not legal, you go to jail. But Reagan stopped enforcing that law at the urging of the meatpacking industry and the construction industry, who wanted to break their unions. This was part of Reagan's anti-union program. Those were two of the most heavily unionized industries in the United States. He stopped enforcing that policy, and guess what? Now those industries are no longer unionized, in large part because of this. And so 10 million people said, hey, the employers can now hire me. I think I'll go to America. Wouldn't you? So if this is, by the way, David, Mitt Romney is the guy who made this the corner piece of his presidential campaign in 2012. He called it self-deportation. He said, if there's no work and you don't qualify for benefits if you're not a citizen, people are going to leave. And sure enough, actually, over the last couple of years, we've had more people leave this country from south of the border than come into this country. So A, there's no reason for hysteria, and B, if you want to know who's responsible for the policy that has caused 10 to 14 million people to come to this country, talk to your Republican friends.
Thank you for your call.
You're welcome, David. Thank you for the call. Steve in Zimmerman, Minnesota. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Good afternoon, Tom. I just wanted to have you verify something regarding Trump's wall.
Yeah.
He keeps on trying to justify building this wall because of his overwhelming concern for border security. So he's almost been in office for 2 years. It's my understanding that we've only spent 6% of allocated funds for border security. Am I correct on that?
That's my recollection. Yeah, they appropriated a whole bunch of money. It was a little short of $1 billion, I think, 2 years ago, and Trump has not spent that money because he doesn't know how to run a bureaucracy. He doesn't know how to run a government. A, and B, 1 million people a day cross the southern border legally through legal checkpoints. They go back and forth. 1 million people a day. The 9/11 hijackers did not sneak into this country. They came in on tourist visas. Millions of people a day come into this country from all over the world. Many of them overstay their visas. If we have concerns about having too many immigrants in this country who are not here legally, as I said just a minute ago, don't let them work. It's real simple.
Yeah, well, hasn't there been 2 immigration reform bills that were bipartisan,
yes,
that got stalled out on somebody's desk who didn't want to bring it to the floor?
Yeah. In 2015, I think it actually passed the Senate with, as I recall, 84 or 86 votes. It was a bipartisan bill, and it would have caused employers to go to, wealthy white employers to start going to jail if they hired people from south of the border who are not citizens. And Paul Ryan refused to allow it to come for a vote in the House of Representatives, dancing to the tune of the billionaires in this country who run, the industry and the industries that want to stay non-unionized.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the call, Steve. Bob in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Appreciate you. I appreciate you having Marianne Williamson on earlier.
Thank you. Bob, we have a little less than a minute.
think
You wanted
she-
to get right to the Kurds?
Yeah, I just think she articulates things very well for our point of view. But anyway, yeah, the Kurds. The Kurds can take care of themselves. They've always been our allies. I mean, I'd like to see them be restored in a more holistic way.
I'd like to see Kurdistan. I think that we should take a chunk out of northern Syria, southern Turkey, and northwestern Iraq, and form Kurdistan. But that's going back pre-World War I. I mean, it's going to take a hell of a lot for that to happen.
Well, it's going to take some radical reforms all over the surface of the planet to bring about a sustainable lifestyle for most people on the planet. So I think it's going to be necessary.
Yeah, amen. Well said, Bob. Bob, thanks a lot for the call. It's a complicated issue, and I think Sunday's call at the end of the last hour, where she was talking about how, if Israel attacks Lebanon to take out Hezbollah in the south of Syria, on the southern border, and if Turkey attacks the Kurds in the north, you have World War III beginning right there.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
So this is how's the old saying going, a sticky wicket for those who play cricket. We'll be back. Bob Ney is going to join us in about 4 minutes. Stick around. And welcome back, Frank in Florence, Oregon. Hey, Frank, what's on your mind today?
At last. Thank you.
Yeah. What's up?
Hey, quickly, you had Steve on earlier, and I may be older than he is. I'm over 80 years old.
Okay.
The guy had no clue at all. I mean, he had no facts. It was like talking to Donald Trump.
Well,
it's a little frustrating listening to that.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the guy Steve, who called and said that Donald Trump knows things that his Joint Chiefs don't know.
The mystery man.
Yeah.
Anyhow, what I want to talk about was something else. I've got a wonderful delegation. Peter DeFazio is my congressman. Senator Merkley is absolutely wonderful. He has done things with the border situation that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've got to call his office today. Nobody's talking about following the money, and we're talking about the inaugural committee for Donald Trump, but nobody's talking about Geo Group and Course Civic, for instance. Each gave $250,000 to that committee after both giving six-figure contributions. These guys sit in on all these policy debates, and they direct policy, and nobody is following the money.
These are the private prison companies, the two biggest private prison companies in America.
That's correct.
And
these guys
they're building and running
years.
these private prisons for the immigrants as well.
That's correct. And not only that, but there's another enormous contract, and that's transportation. You got Geo Group buses running from coast to coast more than Greyhounds.
Wow.
And I've been fighting the private prison industry for 23 years. In fact, Lisa Graves, your previous guest, is an old friend, because she and I have talked a lot about private prisons over the years and shared information.
Yep.
So anyhow, if people could direct their attention to that, I would really appreciate it. And also, a number of your callers have thanked you for having Marianne Williams on. That was absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
And it was very educational. We've thrown the Kurds under the bus time after time after time, and the major media really needs to take a good look at this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold you any longer. You've got other callers, I'm sure, in the queue.
Yep.
But thank you very much for all your work and bringing on terrific guests.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for your kind words. It's great to hear from
Right.
you. And thanks for watching Free Speech. Maverick in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Maverick, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Wow, that Marianne Williams? Wow.
Williamson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Williamson.
MarianneForAmerica.com is the website.
Fabulous. Really liked hearing that. The reason I called is I'm curious as to if you could explain what you mean by the Kurds being tremendous fighters.
The Peshmerga, which is the Kurdish fighting force, is legendary, much like the Afghan fighting force, and I'm forgetting the name of that they had. But these two groups,
the Mujahideen,
have a multi-hundred-year-long history of being just, really competent, a really competent military.
Was it the Mujahideen that you're talking
Yeah, the
about?
Mujahideen.
In Afghanistan?
Yeah.
All right. So how are these like Are they like because they've been doing it a long time?
Yeah,
They're highly
it's part of their
skilled
culture.
at it, or
no, it's part of their
I mean,
culture.
they bleed like everybody else. That's
Well,
all.
I think it's part of their culture because they have, and and it's sort of like the Israelis. They're encircled by enemies, and so they develop this kind of fighter culture. And the Kurds have been the minority. They've been encircled by people who are hostile to them, both Shia and Sunni, for the entire history of Kurdistan, and now. And so, they've developed, to the best of my knowledge, I mean, I'm no expert on Kurdistan. I don't mean to represent myself as one, but that's certainly what it looks like to me. Maverick, thanks a lot for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, good talking to you. Hey, sure, I've lost Bob. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and let's check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world today. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Loving What You Do. Ellen Rentner's new book. On the line with us is the author of Sideswiped, former Republican Congressman from Ohio, Bob Ney. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you, Tom. Pleasure to be here.
So what's going on in the world that we need to know about?
Well, of course, we all know about Syria and the surprise announcement, but I wanted to go to immigration. It's kind of Immigration Day, and a couple of the stories, well, one isn't buried, but one may be buried, about money that we're giving to Mexico. If we're looking around the whole issue of immigration, first of all, there's the California judge, Judge Teager, who made a ruling that, and it was temporary originally, the ruling, now he's made a decisive permanent ruling on it, that the Trump administration cannot say and institute a ban, whereas someone comes into the United States and then they say, well, you're illegal and now you can't apply for asylum, which is what they were doing. Right. So that was ruled. Now, what's interesting, though, and they'll probably appeal, of course. On top of this, we know the stopgap spending measure. Trump's angry at the Republicans. He wants the wall, all gearing towards immigration. Well, at the same time, the Trump administration is announcing over almost $9 to $10 billion that they're going to give to Mexico and Central America to be used to basically attempt to keep people in those countries versus coming here. So they're announcing.
Wouldn't it be better to give $9 or $10 billion to building democracy in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador?
Well, sure. I mean, it would be better because if we look at this and the verbiage on it, we don't know much right now. By airtime, I tried to find out more. We don't know much, but it's just that it's going to be used to assist people so that they won't. Now, they don't say it exactly this way, but so they won't migrate to the United States. But clearly intended for that purpose. That's how they're going to use it.
Bob, can we talk about Syria for a minute?
Oh, sure. Of course.
You lived in Iran. You speak Farsi, the language of Iran. Iran is, aligned with Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Iran doesn't like the Kurds any more than Turkey or Syria or Iraq, which is these are the four countries where the fragments of old Kurdistan live. It seems to me that my theory of Donald Trump's immediately pulling out of Syria is that Erdogan, we know that he talked to Erdogan a couple days ago, and that Erdogan said to him, okay, you couldn't give me my sheikh, but if you want me to shut up about Saudi Arabia so that your son-in-law, Jared Kushner, can get his $1 billion out of the Saudis and the Emiratis, I will do that if you will let me slaughter the Kurds in northern Syria. A, do you think I'm wrong? You know that region. And B, what should we be doing?
Well, you have a fascinating theory because let's look at a fact. Right now, as you know, they probably have smelling salts under John Bolton's nose, the National Security Advisor.
Oh, well, he wants to have a full-out nuclear war in Syria, take Assad out, blow up the Russian submarine base, the whole thing, or the Navy base.
Go over to Iran, hit Russia. Right. Go get everybody. In fact, maybe hit Canada just in case they misbehave in 100 years. So that's the Bolton theory. So you got Bolton, you have the General, Mad Dog Mattis, and you have the Secretary of State all in line with not doing this, what the president's doing. A decision of this nature, because we know he didn't sit down and he got advice, but he didn't seek advice before he made this decision.
As far as we can tell, the only person he consulted was the president of Turkey.
Correct. That's right. And he announced it on a tweet. So it's not just all of a sudden he woke up and said, I think I'll pull our troops out of Syria today. Now, he's saying that he's a long-time person that doesn't want involvement, but yet he did go full force against ISIS, in Syria itself. Let's face that. He shifted some troops also from Iraq, we know, into Afghanistan. So he has done things like that. But on this one, it's bewildering because I think your theory has a lot of merit. It was a deal cut with Turkey. His son-in-law is so close to Mohammed bin Salman that he's giving Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, is giving the president the worst particular advice anyone could give. I still think it's business-related.
Yep.
I think it's looking down the road at business.
Yep.
There is no rhyme or... Now, I'm not saying that the president's move to get troops out of Syria is a bad move in a sense, okay? Mm-hmm. We've lost some ground over there. But I will tell you this. For the president to enable Iran, which is what this will do, this will make Iran more powerful. In order to do that, something had to have happened because this is against all the advice. So
I'm all in favor of pulling our troops out of Syria if we do it in a way that doesn't compromise the security of the Kurds, which I think could be done simply by politically threatening Erdogan. We will take you out of NATO. We will take you out of the EU. We will cut off trade with you. We will punish you if you commit genocide against the Kurds in northern Syria, because he has already officially labeled them as terrorists.
Sure.
And against his own country. He said there's terrorists on my southern border. He wants to take them out. He's said so. So it seems to me, Bob, that we have a foreign policy. We know now that Trump's foreign policy with regard to Russia was driven by his economic interests. This deal memo that he wrote to build a hotel in Moscow. I'm asserting, and I have seen nothing to contradict this, that his foreign policy with regard to Syria is similarly economically driven in the interests of the Trump crime family.
I mean, it has to be something to that effect because it's sad what we're doing to the Kurds. They have stood by us. They've fought terrorism. And look, the president, as you know, was willing to send back the cleric into Turkey, right?
Until it blew up in the press.
Right.
And then he
couldn't. Blew up in the press. And so now this might be a maneuver because, he can get away with saying, I decided I didn't want to have troops there. But again, the thing that makes me believe that your theory has merit and makes me believe there's something there is, again, you just don't wake up and announce this kind of move without at least communicating with your top people. And he didn't.
Right.
And again, I'm very suspicious of the business connection of the son-in-law. I think this is going to be their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be what takes them down.
I think it is.
Greed, just pure unadulterated greed. Yep. Bob Ney, author of Sideswipe. Bob, thanks a lot for dropping by today.
Thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you. As always, happy holidays. We'll be back. We're going to check in with Maya K. Van Rossum, who is an attorney, activist, and executive director of the Delaware Riverkeepers, about a green amendment securing our right to a healthy environment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday, we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, yeah, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. Put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free Speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker. With the $60 gift, you can get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, depending on where you live, of course, but here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or might take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, now these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment specifically, the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's unequal protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. We should take a picture of the rack room, and show that, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, in this, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, we'll go have lunch. And, typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things. And not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And, we've seen, some nice friendships develop out of that. And it's just a great thing. I really, really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's what a $1,000 gift to meet and greets. But the bottom line is every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy. You know, the free press, the fourth estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all, to help our nation. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with the logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Usually come from about Social Security.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Maya K. Van Rossum, an attorney, activist, executive director, and original organizer of the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. Maya is the author of a new book, The Green Amendment, Securing Our Right to a Healthy Environment. Maya, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Am I saying your last name right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. So are you talking about an amendment to the Constitution of the United States?
What I'm talking about is amendments to the state constitutions. I think we need to start at the state level first, and then ultimately at some point down in the future, we'll be ready to look at the federal constitution. But right now we're talking about amending state constitutions to recognize and protect the inalienable right to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment.
With the federal supremacy clause that says basically federal law trumps state law, it's fairly easy for the federal government, and particularly the Supreme Court, to simply assert that a state law is not in compliance with federal laws, or even a state or a state constitutional amendment. Several have been struck down in the last few years. How do you prevent that?
Well, so the state constitutions, right, impact state action, state decision-making, the passage and implementation of state laws. And we actually have, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we have a Bill of Rights provision that recognizes and protects the right to pure water, clean air, and a healthy environment, and mandates constitutionally through the state constitution that state government officials, whether they're elected to office or they're regulators appointed to office, carry forth their constitutional obligation to recognize and protect the people's right to a healthy environment. So that doesn't get trumped by the federal constitution, right? Because the state constitution guides and impacts what state officials are doing pursuant to state law. And that's really powerful when you're talking about the environmental arena, where so much is up to the states to handle and deal with.
So are you suggesting that other states should adopt Pennsylvania's constitution, or that portion of Pennsylvania's constitution, or is this a completely separate amendment that you're proposing for all the states, including Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So what I'm proposing is that every state craft and add to it the Bill of Rights section of its constitution, its own state constitutional provision, but that has basic minimums, like recognizing and protecting the right to clean water, clean air, a healthy environment. Pennsylvania's provision is a good model, but frankly, right now it's not the best model. We actually have a constitutional amendment moving in the state of New Jersey, which is even more protective, more beneficial in terms of language than what we have in Pennsylvania. And amongst the things that it does differently and better is it actually recognizes climate rights, right? The right to a stable climate. So Pennsylvania's provision was passed in 1971. It only got legal life in 2013 as the result of litigation that my organization, the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, successfully pursued along with 7 towns. But when it was originally crafted, right, it sort of predated, while there were many of us who were aware of climate change at the time, for the vast majority of people, right, it was a new concept. So that didn't actually make it in Pennsylvania's provision, but it needs to be in other provisions today.
Have you been working with Thomas Lindsay and CELDEF on any of this?
So CELDEF is a wonderful organization. They actually have a different approach, right? We are looking to use the recognized, powerful, legal constitutional pathway for recognizing and protecting the right to a healthy environment. CELDEF has a great concept, but it's different. So, too, there are a lot of other great concepts like the rights of nature and the Oregon climate litigation that's advancing by our children.
Juliana case, yeah.
That's right. Great concepts, all value added, but they are different concepts than using the strength and the power of our state and federal constitutions to recognize and protect as inalienable the right to a healthy environment. So we recognize and protect our environmental rights in the same way we recognize and protect other fundamental freedoms we hold dear, like the right to free speech, the right to freedom of religion, private property rights, due process rights, and so on.
Right. So you're not asserting that nature has rights, that frogs have rights, that the environment essentially has rights, as some, including CELDEF, have suggested. You're asserting that kind of the back way around that is to say that we have a right to clean air, clean water, a clean environment, a stable atmosphere, a stable environment. And the consequence of that, of course, would be that the rights of nature are more aggressively and effectively protected. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you do. But on the other hand, they're also not mutually exclusive. So one of the states where I'm speaking with folks, they really passionately believe in the rights of nature, and they would like to have that kind of language included in a constitutional amendment that they're hoping to advance in their state. So one of the things that I've done is work with them to figure out the right language for including that concept in the amendment that they would advance. I think including the rights of nature is powerful and important if you can get it passed, but it does change the picture, and in many ways it will raise the bar. And I don't think it's necessary to get, just as you just said, to get this powerful level of constitutional protection for our environment. We don't have to include the nature's rights explicitly, but to some people it's important. And if it's important, then it can be done.
Put it in, yeah. So game this out with me. A state adopts a constitutional amendment that includes the right to a stable atmosphere. That state, that gets adopted. The good citizens of the state then bring a lawsuit against the state for allowing fracking, which is destabilizing the environment. The frackers sue, or in fact, they may initiate the lawsuit actually, saying, wait a minute, you're infringing on our ability, our right to contract, our right to do business in this state. Which is heavily protected by the Constitution and the Supreme Court. Historically, the Supreme Court has almost always put property rights and business rights above individual human rights. And the Supreme Court says, very nice amendment that you've got to your Constitution there, but you can't take away the rights of the fracking companies. We're gonna strike down that provision of your Constitution. A, do you think that that's a reasonable characterization of what might happen? And B, how do you respond to that?
So first off, I just want to remind people, right, that, again, I believe that we start at the states. So when you talk about the Supreme Court, we're actually talking about state Supreme Courts. The federal Constitution is down the road. I believe we will get there, and we have to get there if we want to hold Congress and the president accountable.
But the U.S. Supreme Court can strike down provisions of individual state constitutions, and they have done that in the past.
But what we're talking about here, primarily in the implementation of the state constitutions, right, it's going to be holding states accountable. So the place that we're going to begin is with state actions and at the state level.
No, I absolutely get that. But how, if the federal government decides to insert itself, how do you respond to it?
But I don't think that we're going to. Frankly, I don't think that we're going to get to that place, right? So, in terms of the state constitutions, right, the states have a very powerful role to recognize and protect the rights of the citizens, the rights of the residents in their state. And I truly don't think that we're going to be getting to a situation where we start having the federal government knock down state constitutional provisions because they are guiding the way state activities happen. And one of the things to really recognize, I think, in the scenario you're talking about, is right now when you talk about industry, and their private property rights, for example, the fact of the matter is they have a tremendous leg up on the people, on the challengers of their actions and activities, because there is no counterbalance in the Constitution when it comes to the environment. Corporations and people have property rights, but other than in Pennsylvania and Montana, where we have the kinds of green amendments that I'm talking about, you don't have an environmental counterbalance. And so they have a much stronger foothold legally, constitutionally, than the challengers do. What's happening in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, since we breathed legal life into the Green Amendment, the Environmental Rights Amendment in the Pennsylvania Constitution, is that the courts are now recognizing that there's actually a counterbalance to private property rights and the other rights that industry and others are claiming. And as one judge in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania put it, the Pennsylvania Environmental Rights Amendment now puts a thumb on the scale for protection of the environment when you've got this struggle between property rights and environmental rights. So it really is very powerful.
So you're not concerned about the Supremacy Clause?
No, I'm not. I don't think that we're going to be hopping to that place. I think when we start, and we haven't experienced that yet, right? We have green amendments, powerful green amendments in Pennsylvania and in Montana, and we're not seeing industry trying to advance the kind of claim that you're talking about. And truthfully, if there was that kind of claim, I think that there is a strong defense against it, right? Because we are talking about the states' rights through their constitutions and through constitutional law to guide the actions and activities of state legislators and what they are doing legislatively in their own jurisdictions, right? We have a great respect here in the United States of America for states and states' rights. Therefore, they have tremendous authority through their constitutions and through litigation to regulate in certain areas. In the area of the environment, the law explicitly recognizes, when you're talking about the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and so much other legislation, the laws explicitly recognize the rights of the states to protect what is happening with their borders environmentally.
Fascinating stuff. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Maya K. Van Rossum is the author and also the Delaware Riverkeeper. The book, The Green Amendment, Securing Our Right to a Healthy Environment. You can tweet her at Del Riverkeeper, and the website Maya Van Rossum, ROSSUM.green, and DelawareRiverkeeper.org. Maya, thanks so much for dropping by today.
Thanks for having me. Great
talking with you. We'll be right back. It is, 17 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Stick around. And welcome back. Eric in Middletown, New York. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hey, Tom, listen, on this serious thing, and I just kind of want to second Bob Ney here on the credibility to your theory about Trump's motivations, because this does represent a change in attitude, posture, arguably a 180-degree change if you consider the movement of troops that Bob mentioned from Iraq into Syria. But the main reason for my call is seeing the trees for the forest in our foreign policy, and this is just another way to indicate that Donald Trump is short-sighted, impulsive, personally interested.
Or he's just
rather than-
hustling on behalf of his own business interests.
Right,
That's
well,
my concern.
Personal interest. Yeah, that was the second part of that. But imagine a scenario where our foreign policy writ large, from the beginning of the Trump administration, had been slightly less abrasive towards our NATO partners, with Germany in particular being clearly the most powerful among them. There is no Western democracy on the face of the earth that has the kind of relationship with Turkey that Germany does. And going to your point about being able to apply pressures that are non-military on Erdogan.
Yeah.
Nobody could do that more meaningfully and in a greater variety of ways than Germany. And
that's an excellent point. Eric, if I could just pause you for a second. I'm assuming that the reason for that is twofold. Number one, Germany is the most powerful nation in the European Union. And, Turkey wants to stay, I believe they're part of the EU. If not, they want to become part of the EU. They certainly want to stay part of NATO. And number two, there's an enormous number of people of Turkish ancestry in Germany. They began importing them right after World War II. They're called Gastarbeiters, or guest workers. And it's one of the huge controversial issues, or at least it was back in the 80s when I lived in Germany. 2-3 generations down the road, many of them still didn't have German citizenship. And it's just been boiling the German body politic for decades. So
yeah, and if you've spent any time in Germany, that's one of the things you observe, is that their immigrant population, the way that Americans can observe that ours is primarily Hispanic and Latino, is the next subculture that is most present in America. There's no question that Turks are Germany's most prevalent and present obviously outside people.
And therefore, Germany has tremendous influence with Turkey. So if Trump had called up...
There's a lot of business there.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying, Eric, is if Trump had called up Angela Merkel and said, okay, I want to get my troops out of Syria, I want you to threaten Erdogan if he goes in and commits a slaughter of the Kurds in northern Syria, that would be the way to do it.
And I'll go you one further, because it doesn't take Madeleine Albright to see the way the dominoes will fall if we do this. Merkel would have been calling us to offer to say, hey, listen, if you want to formulate a strategy that's totally non-military, here are the things we can do for you as your NATO partner that supports you.
That makes so much sense, which is probably why Trump didn't do it. Eric, thanks. Thanks for the perspective and the insights. Excellent points. It is such a privilege doing this show and hanging out with so many smart people who inform me every day. It's coming up on 22 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. With a $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Address this. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Jacob in Baltimore. Hey, Jacob, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I've called in a couple times talking about climate change and the urgency of dealing with it, and so I'm really happy to see the Green New Deal being pushed by the progressives, and I think we're on the right path there.
Yeah.
But I think the progressives are still really lacking in how in the vision for how America can be positively and proactively involved in the world globally and not just go isolation. And so what I think that we need to do is reorient and say that we need to look back to the single most successful foreign policy intervention that the United States has ever done, which is the Marshall Plan. And we need to do a global green Marshall Plan where we help all the countries that are developing leapfrog the fossil fuel industry in order to give them their development. It will build huge amounts of goodwill around the world and, avoid these emissions.
Yeah, and it would also put us in competition with China's Belt and Road policy, which there's an interesting piece of the Financial Times yesterday. They're running into some real problems in some of these countries where they've poured billions of dollars into infrastructure, and now these countries are exploiting it in ways that the Chinese don't want, or it's not being used, or the countries are so corrupt that they were skimming lots and lots of money off the top, and the Chinese didn't control it. And it's fallen apart because basically it's just China being mercantilist, doing it in their own best interests. And what you're talking about, Jacob, is something that would be in the interest of those individual countries as much as it would us. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't morally stop them from developing, but we also can't, from a climate perspective, allow them to develop in the way that we did in a fossil fuel heavy way.
Yeah.
So, it's an obligation, and we know that we can turn our greatest enemies into some of our greatest allies through actions like the Marshall Plan.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that should be our sort of progressive, face towards the world.
I agree. A Green New Deal at home and a Green Marshall Plan overseas. Excellent, Jacob. Thank you. I thought also the caller who suggested that Germany has more influence with Turkey than pretty much any other country in the world for a multitude of reasons. And if Trump had called up Angela Merkel and said, you put your thumb on Erdogan and tell him that he can't slaughter the Kurds, and I'll pull our troops out, that, it could have worked. Robert in Fairfield, California, you wanted to talk about Syria? We have just a minute, Robert, by the way.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to add one more thing to what was mentioned about Syria and about pulling out. I don't think we ought to pull out because we still have Assad there. Something needs to be done about Assad.
Well, that's really problematic. I mean, Assad is an ally of Russia. Russia has a naval base there. It's sort of like if Russia said, you've got to get those dictators out of Qatar, and let's not fool ourselves, they're dictators. How do we react?
Well, I don't know really what the answer to it is, but I mean, there's a lot of problems there, and how to handle the overall thing is. But at least I wouldn't agree with pulling out with the situation like it is and Assad still there.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of pulling out. I just think that we should pull out in a way that doesn't lead directly to a slaughter of the Kurds by the Turks. So that Donald Trump can build a hotel in Ankara, or that Mohammed bin Salman will be happy that Erdogan stops talking about the murder of Khashoggi, and therefore he and his buddies, the Emiratis, will start giving money to Jared Kushner. Because I really believe that's what's behind all of this. I think it's all about getting Jared Kushner $1 billion for 666 Fifth Avenue. I could be wrong, but it really looks that way to me. Robert, thank you for your call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Viagra for your brain, the Thom Hartmann Program. How do you think Trump is going to respond when it becomes obvious that he has committed high crimes and misdemeanors? How will he react? Our theme for the day is every dollar counts, and it really does. Yesterday we raised a little over $2,000. It's way short of our goal, but every dollar counts. Your donation, $10, $20, every dollar counts, and it really does. They add up. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this program right now, a lot of people watching this network right now, and probably well over 95%, in fact, generally speaking, well over 98% of people who watch nonprofit programming that is funded by its viewers and listeners actually don't contribute. They just consume the program and say, okay, hope it works. That's why we need your help. We need your help to increase the percentage of people who are actually participating, who are interacting with Free Speech TV, who are members of Free Speech TV, who are helping support this network and this program. And you can do that now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And you know, it's really important that you make your donations now, that you call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 3x8 clear windows sticker with the Free Speech TV logo. Put it on your window or put it in your car, and it's a great, you know, conversation starter. Your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever. Hey, what's that? Free Speech TV? That sounds kind of cool. Oh yeah, here it is, right? You watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on the internet at freespeech.org, you can use your Roku box, you can use your Apple box. It's like, it's everywhere. And then they'll go looking for it and find it, and hey, you know, you have done your tag you're it evangelism for the day. So $20 to get the Free Speech TV conversation starting sticker. With the $60 gift, you can get the Tag You're It coffee mug. It's a nice ceramic mug. $60 is basically, I mean, depending on where you live, of course, but here in Portland, $60 is dinner for two in a decent restaurant. And you know, so to say, okay, one night, I'm not going to take Louise out for dinner. I'm going to make a contribution to Free Speech TV, or might take up my wife or husband or whatever. And you get the coffee mug. Nothing wrong with that. With a $72 gift, you get the 2018 edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by me. With a $120 gift, you get the Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, you can sign up for the NLP webinar that Louise and I are putting together, and you get a copy of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift. Now, these larger gifts can be spaced out over 12 months, over a period of months, $240 one time, or $20 a month for 12 months for a year. And that would be the webinar. $360 would be $30 a month for a year. You get the 5-book special, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, you know, the book about the environment. Unequal Protection, a book I wrote about how the Supreme Court basically took control of the U.S. government and handed human rights that were defined in the 14th Amendment specifically, the right of equal protection under the law, handed that to corporations in a way that those corporations have used now through decisions like Buckley and Citizens United to basically take over the political processes of the United States, and how we need to take back those political processes. So that's Unequal Protection. You get the Thom Hartmann Reader, you get Rebooting the American Dream, and Greg Palast's book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's with $360. And with $480, you get everything except the webinar. That's The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, the Thom Hartmann Reader, Rebooting the American Dream, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, complete with a logo, another conversation starter, the sticker, the conversation starting sticker, and the Thom Hartmann Tag You're It coffee mug. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland, and you can see all the magic that we do, all the electrons dancing around. You know, we should take a picture of the rack room, you know, and show that, you know, all the equipment that we've got in the back that just does this incredible electronic magic, so that, you know, in this, you know, humble little studio in an office building here in Portland, we can produce a television program that is literally broadcast around the world, and live, in fact. So, and, you know, hang out for the third hour of our show, and then, you know, we'll go have lunch. And, you know, typically we get 4 or 5 people together at a time to do this, for these meet and greet things. And not only do you get to hang out with me, but you get to hang out with a few of your peers. And, you know, we've seen, you know, some nice friendships develop out of that. And it's just a great thing. I really, you know, really enjoy meeting people who are regular watchers, viewers of this program. It's nice to get feedback. It's your opportunity to lobby us, to let us know what you think is good and bad about the show and how we might be able to improve it. I love the feedback. So that's with a $1,000 gift, the meet and greets. But the bottom line is, every dollar counts. Please, now. We only have today and tomorrow. These are our last days, last opportunities to acquire that blessing, that participation in democracy. You know, the free press, the fourth estate, the flywheel that balances democracy. Your opportunity to be part of that, to make that happen, to help us all, to help our nation.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you, and it's looking increasingly like Trump is not going to sign the continuing resolution that will keep the government open. This isn't the entire government that will shut down this time. That's what Ted Cruz did in 2013 and what Newt Gingrich did back in the 90s, because they've already passed several pieces of spending legislation in the previous weeks. But it is somewhere between a fifth and a quarter of the government that is not yet funded past, I think it's Friday of this week. And if this doesn't happen, you're going to see the shutdown. My personal opinion is what's going on is that Trump wants this to happen because it'll distract us from the fact that his Syria policy is being driven by his desire to extract money out of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for his family and his son-in-law. And the price of that, the Saudis and their buddies, the Emiratis, are saying, quit talking about Khashoggi, enough already. And you got to shut up Erdogan in Turkey. You got to just shut that guy up because he's the one who's, telling the world constantly that we murdered this guy in our embassy. Shut him up, and we'll give you what you want. We will stop. The Saudis are saying to the Trump crime family, shut up Erdogan, and we'll consider funding your son-in-law's $1 billion debt on 555 Fifth Avenue or something like that. Or Erdogan is saying, hey, I'll do what I want, and I'll let you build a Trump Tower in Ankara. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I guarantee you there's something in it for the Trump crime family. And, he doesn't want us talking about that anymore because that blew up in his face. He doesn't want us talking about Bob Mueller and the investment. Well, frankly, some of these prosecutions have nothing to do with Mueller. They're coming out of the Southern District of New York. They're coming out of the D.C. District, the federal prosecutors in these two areas. And, going after Flynn and going after Manafort and Cohen and all this stuff. And Trump doesn't want us talking about that. So, hey, let's talk about whether to shut down the government, right? It worked for Newt. It worked for Ted. Maybe it'll work for me, says Donald. So we'll see. He is getting pushback from his own people, though. Will Hurd is a Republican congressman from Texas. And he was on Ali Velshi's show on MSNBC this morning. And he said that the people sent us to Washington, D.C. to get something done, not to burn the place down. That's the phrase he used. So we should be able, he said, to at least fund the government. And then, when Ali Velshi asked him about border security, he said, this fallacy that the wall equals border security. I spent a decade as an undercover officer in the CIA chasing bad guys. We're monitoring or keeping track of the wrong metric. It's not how many miles of wall you have that's going to keep us safe. It's, are we keeping bad people and keeping drugs out of our country? Building a wall from sea to shining sea is the most expensive and least effective way to do border security. The thing that everybody misses, and that I'm surprised, frankly, that the media doesn't repeat more often, and probably I should too, is that Trump wasn't originally in favor of building a wall. He thought it was a dumb idea. He thought it would be expensive. It would be a waste of time and money. He was not in favor of building a wall. Similarly, he was not in favor of the lock them up chant about Hillary Clinton. He thought that, he didn't think that, he thought that there were other things that would motivate the American people, like bringing jobs back, getting out of trade deals, things like that. And he was, by the way, that instinct was correct. The American people want us to get out of these terrible trade deals. But when Cambridge Analytica, early on in Trump's campaign, when Cambridge Analytica tested various campaign memes, they found that the two highest rating ones among potential Trump base, the two memes that rated the highest, that got the strongest response from the potential Trump base, were build a wall and have Mexico pay for it, and lock up Hillary Clinton for crimes. And so Trump tried those out just for the hell of it. He was very skeptical. Tried those out in one of his campaign stops, in one of his rallies, and the crowd went nuts. And of course, when the crowd goes nuts, Donald is like, hey, this is my thing, right? So that, we forget that, frankly, at our own peril. Jay in Bakersfield, California. Hey, Jay, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to just talk about, Trump's pullout of Syria might be tied to the fact that oil is $46.50 or $48.50 a barrel, and producers in America stopped producing around 50, I think.
Right.
And
fracking is not viable under $50 a barrel, basically, or at least new fracking.
Yeah, so I think he wants to create instability in the Middle East to do a couple of things. One, to raise oil prices, and two, to make a deal with Russia and Turkey.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion. And if you look at where I'm from in Kern County, and you go back to this is kind of another point that the oil producers here back in the 80s, late 70s and early 80s used to be all union. And Texaco, Shell, Pennzoil, all of them, Occidental, they were all union and had union labor. And when Reagan came in, Reagan disbanded the union labor, and roustabout wages went from $18 an hour to $9 an hour overnight.
Wow.
And it really destroyed the economy in this town.
That's interesting.
And the growth.
Well, to speak to your point that you think that Trump might be doing this to try to raise the price of oil to help out his buddies, of course, Russia wants the price of oil to go up. And the oil guys, the Koch brothers and all these other guys, some of them are refiners. They probably don't want the price of oil to go up. The ones who are the producers definitely want the price of oil to go up. There's a very, very delicate balance here, a very narrow window in which they want to operate. If oil is more than $50 a barrel, then it's economical, it's profitable to produce it in the United States. If it's over $80 a barrel, then every form of alternative energy, basically wind and solar, become massively more economical than fossil fuels. And so when the price of oil goes above $80 a barrel, that starts to aggressively depress demand for oil, and they don't want that to happen either. So they try to keep it in this window of roughly $55 or $60 to $80, and in that's their sweet spot. If they go above 80, they're politically at risk. If they go below 60 or certainly below 50, then it's not profitable. And I think that massive instability in the Middle East could pop the price of oil above $100 a barrel. So I don't think that that's the main reason he's doing it. I think this has to do with his hotel business and his son-in-law. But who knows? What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I somewhat agree. He's a crook, and he's out for his own greed and his own self.
Yeah.
And he'll do anything to keep himself afloat.
Yeah, it's all about the Trump crime family.
I agree with that more than my point.
There you go. Jay, thanks for the call. Charles in Opelika, Florida. Hey, Charles, what's up?
Hey, how you doing today, Tom?
Good.
My thing is this. By Trump doing this, of course he's going against everything Obama did in his administration as far as...
Doing which? Are you talking about pulling out of Syria?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm pissed off because we're letting, and I told you this before, I consider Vladimir Putin and Assad war criminals. They gas their people. And you're letting that off the hook. So what's the sense in going into Iraq saying Saddam was a bad man, that he gassed his people, and this guy is doing the same? And I know Assad could not have done it without just, okaying it with Putin. Mm-hmm. Which is their only ally in the Middle East. I mean, as far as Western countries. I'm sorry. So, we're letting them off the hook, and I just think this is wrong. We need to hold hearings on this and expose it for what it is. Trump is actually detrimental to our foreign policy now.
Yeah.
Now,
I agree.
This is going too far.
This is not advancing democracy anywhere, if that's one of our goals. Charles, thanks a lot for the call. Chris in Oakland, California. Hey, Chris, what's up? Thanks for listening to AM 910. Real Talk.
Thanks for being on AM 910, and thanks to AM 910 for hosting it.
Amen.
I told your screener that I had a long view solution for this whole thing in the Middle East, but I also like to talk about the pullout. And my view on the pullout is a lot more cynical. I think that the Orange State knows that his goose is cooked. I think he knows his time in office is limited, and I believe that he's just sick and selfish enough to do this to destabilize things so that it turns into a mess when, in all likelihood, a progressive or a Democrat takes over. Now, for the other side, side of my call is
Chris, if I could, before you move on, do you think that it's possible that Trump is trying to destabilize the region in order to create a crisis, so that when Mueller comes along and says high crimes and misdemeanors, Trump can say, "You don't want to impeach me in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a war"?
I don't know that he's that savvy. I just think that he's just that selfish and cynical.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so your long-term solution for Syria.
So my long view, well, for the Middle East in general, and this probably speaks to your book about the last hours of ancient sunlight. I think that if we were to overcome the lobbying power of big oil, develop solar and other renewables, but primarily solar, we could move away from oil to the extent where there would be no necessity for us to be in the Middle East, because we aren't sending troops to Darfur by the hundreds of thousands and spending billions there. We could pull out of there. Not only would we be out of there and not spending the money on it, we'd not only be better for our environment, and not only would they probably not have the motivation to want to attack us for poisoning their culture, they would not have the means, because they wouldn't have our money to do it. I think, like Al Gore said, we're borrowing money from China to purchase a product from the Middle East, the use of which threatens the sustainability of life on Earth. It's just so simple. There's a meme I saw on the internet. Last point, a meme I saw on the internet. It's really present. It's really relevant. It says, if God had wanted us to have free energy, He would have put a giant fusion reactor in the sky. I thank you very much. This is a very happy holiday season.
And sure enough, He did. Yes, nuclear power. Let's use that. Let's use that giant fusion reactor that's only 93 million miles away and does a great job of sustaining all life on Earth. Chris, excellent points. Excellent points all. And yeah, a green Marshall Plan, as a person earlier called and suggested, a Green New Deal, as the Democrats are talking about right now. This could be the thing that tips a lot of things, not just domestic politics, but international politics as well. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Defending America from the conservative weapons of mass deception. Thom Hartmann here with you. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Carolyn in Hearne, Texas. Hey, Carolyn. It says here you disagree with me on Syria. What does that mean?
Well, I believe that our pulling out is the right thing to do. So basically the war is over. Iran, Turkey, and Russia and the UN have agreed to set up a new constitutional convention, which was what Merkel and Macron wanted in their conference with Turkey, Russia. And I don't.
Wait a minute. I don't understand, Carolyn. A new constitutional convention. You mean for Syria? Right? A new constitution for the country?
Yeah. There's the New Deal is that there will be 150 people on the panel, 50 from Syria, the Syrian government, 50 from the opposition, and 50 chosen by the UN.
Right.
And they would amend the Constitution to take care of. To make sure that there was no people were hurt that were in the opposition, so that they would bring them back into the country without any reciprocity.
But the northern part of Syria right now is basically it is not at all under the control of the Syrian government. It's being held by the Kurds. How do you prevent Turkey from coming in and slaughtering them? Erdogan has called them terrorists and said he wants to wipe out this terrorist cell.
The Syrian government has been in talks with the Kurds for quite some time, trying to bring them back into the government and set up an semi-autonomous state.
Which would be a great thing.
And if that happens, then they would actually be the guarantee of safety of the Kurds. And Turkey, because of its agreement with the triumvirate and the UN in creating a stable Syria, would back off if Syria could control the Kurds.
But that's an if. Right now we don't have that.
Yeah, but it is better than what we have.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be pulling out of Syria. I've been saying all along that we absolutely need to get out of Syria. We need to get out of Afghanistan. We need to get out of Iraq. We need to get out of the whole damn region. I would just like to do it in a way that doesn't allow Erdogan to slaughter people.
Well,
and I think Germany could be a huge ally in that, by the way, because they have so much influence over Turkey.
See, and that actually has fallen apart because the only influence that Germany has over Turkey is the fact that the EU pays Turkey money to keep the refugees there. Merkel recently, within the past month, basically said Turkey will never be part of the EU. So there's kind of Turkey is more in line with Russia right now than it is with Europe.
And
especially since the United States put sanctions on Turkey.
Right, and the Kurds sitting on probably the most oil-rich region of Iraq and part of the oil regions of Iran. And I don't know if there's oil in southern Turkey or in northern Syria. Do you? Where the Kurds are?
Not in northern Syria. Where the United States is.
Yeah.
Where its base is actually where Turkey is.
Interesting.
Where actually is the oil.
Well, thank you for that information, Carolyn. My thoughts on this are evolving literally by the hour here as more and more information comes in, and I appreciate your being one of the informed information providers. Carolyn, thank you for the call. And thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And, in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but you know, to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Country. Check it out. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Madison in Portland. Hey, Madison, thanks for watching us or listening to us on X-Ray FM. What's up?
Not much. I just really wanted to call in about the bumper sticker thing because we don't have enough time for me to talk about all the ill-fated things that Trump has done or how he got there.
Well, it is a long list, isn't it, Madison?
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Well, you know what? I think it could probably help if the middle class could raise their children better and stuff, you know, and not have to be working both parents full-time and whatever.
And three jobs, yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's lots of things. But I thought maybe this would be something, a bumper sticker they could understand, is nice red, white, and blue, and say, Trump, Putin, America first.
Yeah, as in putting, yeah.
Putin.
Putin, America first. Okay. I got it, Madison. It's an idea. Right. Madison, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. Steve in Milford, New York. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today? Thanks for listening to Sirius XM.
Hello, Tom. I'm just calling in to tell you how much I enjoy your show. And you're very informative. You're performing a tremendous service to this entire country. You really are. Your comprehensive reporting is very much appreciated, and I just want you to know how I feel, and I thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's very kind of you. I appreciate the call, and thank you for your kind words, and thanks for listening to us on Sirius XM. I promised earlier, and my apologies, I didn't finish up on this, and so I'm going to do it right now here toward the end of the show. Actually, two stories that I wanted to share with you. The first is Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer was arrested in July of last year by Garfield Heights police officers Kenneth Falzini and David Simia. And what he was arrested for was, and prosecuted for, was laughing while black. The police patrol car approached this guy. He was not doing anything wrong. Started harassing him. He called them Beavis and Butthead and laughed at them, and so they arrested him. And had his girlfriend had not been shooting the whole thing on video, he'd probably be in jail right now for resisting arrest and whatever other claims that these two police officers, Falzini and Simia, could come up with. So they handcuffed him and they threw him in the patrol car. They swore at him. When he got to jail, he was there for 3 days before posting bond, and a corrections officer forced him to clean his cell and others under threat of pepper spray. So here he is, this 30-year-old guy cleaning toilets in the jail because he talked back to a cop. The other thing that I was going to share with you is Dr. Paul Ryan, fiscal scientist. This is from Tom the Dancing Bug. It's a cartoon. I saw this over at Daily Kos. Reuben Bowling is the cartoonist. And it's Paul Ryan, and Paul says, "Hi kids, I'm known as a wonk, so today we're going to run a real science experiment with junior scientist Emily here." And little Emily says, "Ready, Dr. Ryan?" And Ryan says, "It's my hypothesis that tax cuts for the rich grow the economy and create a budget surplus." And so she says, "Let's test it using science." So he has this beaker, and he puts into it what looks like the state of Kansas, this little cardboard thing that's shaped like Kansas. And he said, "Here's a state called Kansas. We'll douse it with tax cuts for the rich and see what happens." And she says, "Dr. Ryan, it's doing terribly." And he says, "Sorry, Emily, I couldn't hear you because I'm getting ready for the next experiment. Keep up. This is California. It's in bad shape. Let's douse it with tax increases for the rich and see how much worse it gets." And she says, "Gosh, Dr. Ryan, California is doing great." And he says, "Emily, you're getting bogged down by details." He says, "Now," and then he gets this giant beaker and he puts a cardboard cutout of the entire United States in it. And he says, "Now that we've rigorously proven my hypothesis, let's douse the whole USA in tax cuts for the rich and watch a budget surplus grow." And she's like, "Hey, I live there." And she says, "Oh no, Dr. Ryan, the budget's starting to bust. Hey, where are you going?" And Paul Ryan is taking his lab coat off and he says, "I'm retiring as a hero of fiscal science." And this is just hysterical. And Reuben Bowling at the end says, "Next, getting paid by the rich for doing such awesome science." This is really actually true. When Kansas, Sam Brownback as governor of Kansas instituted massive tax cuts and said right out loud, "I'm going to experiment with Reaganomics and prove that trickle-down economics works." And it devastated Kansas. And then California, actually, when Jerry Brown came in as governor, actually raised taxes on the rich. And California's economy boomed. And then, Donald Trump comes along and repeats what George W. Bush did. Giant tax cut for the whole country, for the billionaires in the whole country, and guess what? The economy goes in the crab room. Anyhow, thanks so much for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be Anything Goes Friday. Should be a lot of fun. And in the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy is something that actually, only works with the polis. That's you and me. That's the public. We have to get involved. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com. Bye.